Hey everyone, it's time for our weekly market update, and we have to start with the CPI data from last week. It came at 8.2%, still higher than projected, a little bit lower than the previous months, but if you can see the graph here, we are still pretty much in a very high inflation territory, and it doesn't seem like the numbers are slowing down drastically anytime soon. This, of course, coupled with the data from the previous week about the unemployment numbers, means that the probability of a rate hike of 75 basis points or higher is much higher, and the market reacted to that. If we jump into the charts, and let me first show you the S&P, we had a wildly volatile couple of days after the CPI data came out. You can see here these candles are massive, and on the day of the CPI we actually had probably one of the biggest short squeezes that I've seen in the last several months, if not years. From the bottom to the top, we had a move in the S&P of more than 5%, almost 5.5%. And on the day of the CPI data when it came out, everyone was bearish, it was higher than expectations, but then we got a massive squeeze and the volatility continued the next day with a move to the downside from top to bottom around 4.5%. I'm definitely expecting this to continue, and it also reflected on the crypto markets, and actually Bitcoin held up like a champ. Before the announcement of the CPI, it all looked like people were preparing for a bad number and that we are breaking down almost the support level around $18,200, and as you can see we had almost a perfect reaction here and then reversed back in. And exactly like the stock market, you can see in that couple of days we had big volatility, which actually squeezes the price into this area even more. Let me show you. So we have this, I would say, updated descending triangle from those last 3 points here, and you can see that we are still squeezing into this area, and definitely feels like price is preparing for a major move. I don't know if it will be to the upside or to the downside. I know that with my hedges and with my overall crypto exposure and cash position, I'm totally fine with whatever decision the market makes and whichever direction it goes. I'm maybe leaning a little bit more to the bearish side just because we're in this massive descending triangle after we got this massive descending triangle invalidated. So this continues to feel more and more like this area back in 2018, and the only major difference that I'm currently seeing is that in this area here we had a decreasing volume, and currently we have actually quite an increase in volume in the past weeks. You see this, this is Binance on the USDT pair, so one of the mostly traded pairs, and as you can see here we are still seeing quite a lot of increase in volume. So if this thing starts dying off here, maybe I think the bearish scenario will be more likely to play out. But again, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm just sitting on my hands and I'm just scouting for different setups that potentially could play out, and I want to share with you some of them and also the position that I opened up last week. And let's start with it. We were discussing in the previous update ENS and the potential breakout, and as you can see here, it actually played out very nicely. Let me just delete my fib extension here. We had a very good breakout with a massive volume on Thursday, and we had a 13% move on the day. My entry here wasn't perfect just because I wasn't on my trading desk when the breakout happened. However, I still decided to take this entry because it was still good enough for me, and I think the setup overall looks very well, and we have a very well positioned risk to reward here at around 14-15% to this level and around 26-27% worst case scenario below this ascending line and below the moving averages. We are currently consolidating around $20, which is a round number, and potentially we could still see a fake out breakout. I think that's highly likely, especially in these market conditions. However, I like my chances here. I'm okay with the risk. This is obviously a smaller position for me. And overall, I like taking these kind of trades either to the upside or to the downside in this kind of market environment, simply because it kind of keeps you in the game. It's very easy to stay away from the trading desk for months on end, and probably you'll be making a lot more money just by sitting on your hands and not taking stupid trades. But if we have a good risk to reward and a good setup, I like to take it just to stay focused, stay engaged with the markets, and make sure that I'm preparing myself and I'm really focused for the biggest moves ahead, where I'm going to be increasing my trading size significantly. Okay, so let's just go back to this trade, and obviously my targets are around $21 and around $28. They line up perfectly, I would say, with some resistance levels above, and also with the fib extensions. A couple of levels there really line up very nicely. And the first level is actually quite a short target, so it's just around 15% from my entry point, but I'm totally fine with this type of gains in this environment, and I want to be safe and lock up some gains early again if we get there. I think if we consolidate here and if the market chops around, or maybe we have continuation to the upside, this will definitely play out even to my second target here around $28, but we just have to wait and see. And obviously I will be updating you guys on whatever happens with this trade. Some other setups that I'm looking at, one is IMX. I still have a bag of this one. I entered here. It's a very small position for me. I was willing to hold it even through an accumulation here and potentially a breakout setup. I'm probably around 80% in of a full position, so this is probably like less than 1% of my portfolio. And obviously this is not playing out. We are still seeing continuing bearishness, and we're already on the verge of another breakdown right here. And one of the main reasons for this is obviously because, first of all, NFTs are pretty much dead and nobody's really trading NFTs and there's no volume. And IMX is a platform for NFTs, so that's kind of obvious. But the second reason that I'm considering a trade here, first to cut out my losers here and then potentially open a short, is because on November 5, we have around 13% of the locked supply that is going to be unlocked. And this is mostly from the project development buy and also private sales. And private sales basically means that some early investors will get access to their coins. And in the current market conditions, with such a high percentage of the total supply, I do believe that a very large percentage of those people would like to sell their IMX once it gets unlocked. And I think this creates almost the perfect storm for another leg down, and that's why I'm looking into shorting IMX. And this is a completely separate trade from those entries right here. I'm okay with the monetary loss. I'm ready to take it. That's completely fine with me. However, this setup just looks very good also because it's just a descending triangle. We are just playing here around support, so we're confirming this level as important. And if we break down, I think there's a high probability of this to play out. I still haven't opened the short position because, as you can see, in the past several days, there's been a lot of selling pressure to the downside, and I don't usually like to take trades whenever this happens, just because usually it just bounces and then continues to the downside. And I want to see how this will play out. If we get a touch in the next several days somewhere around here, and then we have a potential to break down, I think that will be the perfect scenario. But even if it doesn't play out like this, I'm definitely gonna probe a short here if we see price breaking down below this around 60 cents level. Another potential bearish breakdown is on Filecoin, and as you can see, again, very similar picture. We have a descending triangle and we have a confirmed level of support here around $5, I would say. And there's open air pretty much from this level down. You can see we're at the lowest prices of Filecoin in the last couple of years. So definitely there's a lot of potential here for this trade to play out also very nicely. We've been in this level or around this level since June of this year. I always like when we have a longer time to consolidate. So definitely this is another one on the watch. But with all those setups and IMX including, you'll see that we have quite a lot of wicks to the downside because of the volatility from the overall markets, from stocks and also Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I will be very careful, and definitely I wouldn't be going heavy size on these kind of smaller cap altcoins trades, but still I want to be watching this and potentially deciding which of those setups I'll be taking. Another very similar one is 1inch. Again, we have similar situation, the lowest prices at this point, volatility slowly dying out into a descending triangle and a potential for a breakdown around 50 cents. Another one is ApeCoin. We've traded this in the past, made some money here and there. However, now potentially we are seeing some weakness, and with this one I would be a little bit more cautious just because we have some reactions around this level too, and from the breakdown to here it's around 26%, so not a terrible place to take profits on a short, but still, just be aware of this. And if in this case during this setup playing out, Yuga announces something about their metaverse or whatever, I think this coin is really prompt to have little pops here and there on announcements or even on random tweets that don't carry that much information. Just be aware of this whenever you're trading ApeCoin. Another one still in the game is XRP. We're still keeping the structure. Already we broke down from this ascending line, but these are dynamic. This could shift very easily from here. However, we still have higher lows here and a clear resistance level around 50 cents. So if the market turns bullish, I think there's a higher chance of this setup to play out. One that we saw also last week was DESO, and as you can see, after the pop of around 120% from the breakout right here, actually 220%, we're seeing some consolidation. And actually, if price continues to consolidate around this level, potentially in the next weeks, months, this could be a valid trade setup also. However, if we just break out of this in the next several days, I wouldn't be so keen on taking it, just because of the lower volume that we're seeing after the breakout here and after several parabolic days that we had here. But definitely I'm keeping an eye on this, and since decentralized social media is something that has been widely discussed already and has a lot of potential, I'm keeping an eye on DESO. Another one from last week is Quant, and as you can see, this breakout just played very, very well. And the candles are starting to get very, very big here. From the breakout, we're already here around 34%. And we have 5 days in a row of green. And we are pretty much going a little bit parabolic here on the wider range. You see, so this actually played out great. And I didn't take this because it was a secondary breakout already. I didn't catch this one, which I managed to do on ENS. And obviously we won't be able to catch all the breakouts or breakdowns there. We have to pick our poisons, as I like to say. And I'm not gonna chase this one for sure, but it's definitely a good sign for the overall market of altcoins that there's still some winners out there. And if you're keeping your mind sharp and you're on the charts every day and you're keeping your routine, you could definitely find those winners. Another interesting token that I mentioned is GMX, and here it broke down below the 100-day moving average. I will post some research that I've done on this token this week, and I'm not gonna be rushing into buying some at these levels, because as you can see, we just broke down of this level around $40 and we're below the 100-day moving average. So I'll be a little bit more patient and see if we can get it cheaper. But this for me is an accumulation play, and just be aware of it. I'm not gonna be going all in. I'm just gonna be DCAing through the next months, maybe potentially years. And as you can see, for trading, it's still not the perfect coin because you have a lot of wicks, and that is very typical for coins that have, first of all, lower market cap, and also that don't have great exchange diversification, which GMX fits perfectly this description. So if you decide to trade this actively, just be aware of it, because it could be very spiky with a lot of fake outs and a lot of wicks. And that's why I decided that I like this token and I just want to accumulate it and buy it stress-free, not just trade it and see where it goes. This is definitely a longer term play for me. This is everything for this market update. I think we covered quite a lot, and as usual, if you have any questions, you know how to find me.